another vlog for me. It is time to go through the weekly TBR. Let's start out with our weekly quote, which kind of matches my dress. This is my last time with this dress. I'm going to be unhauling it. But the quote is, "Love casts out fear and gratitude can conquer pride." So Louisa May Alcott. I feel like there needs to be a comma in there. I don't know. Do y'all think there needs to be one? Because that was kind of confusing to say, but it might just be I don't have caffeine and it's almost lunchtime. But we're going to go through the weekly TBR. I haven't read anything today. That's going to be, again, something that I am about to do. I start my day out with this essay collection, which is Misbehaving at the Crossroads by Honoré Fannin Jeffers. This is essays and writings, and this is really showing what it is like to be a Black woman in the United States, going all the way back to, you know, when the country was first colonized, you know, all the way up to the present. And just such an interesting story or collection that I'm reading there. That is the main focus. This is the first Hunger Games book that I have not read. It is 517 pages. I'm going to be reading it physically. It is quite the big one. Now, again, I have not read this, and we are going to read the description together. But this is the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. All I know is that this is like President Snow's backstory, his villain origin story, which I love villain origin stories because villains are usually my favorite characters. Now, President Snow was not my favorite character in the Hunger Games, but I have been watching the adaptations after I finish the book. I will be starting Mockingjay Part 2 tonight, and he's just so creepy. Like, the actor, Donald Sutherland, is that his name? The last name I'm blanking on. Fantastic job from him. But let's read the description. Ambition will fuel him, competition will drive him, but power has its price. It is the morning of the reaping that will kick off the 10th annual Hunger Games. In the capital, 18-year-old, I only said it was Cornelius, but in the movie they said it different. So it's like Coriolanus Snow is preparing for his one shot at glory as a mentor in the games. That's crazy. The once mighty House of Snow has fallen on hard times, its fate hanging on the slender chance that Coriolanus will be able to outcharm, outwit, outmaneuver his fellow students to mentor the winning tribute. The odds are against him. He's been given the humiliating assignment of mentoring the female tribute from District 12, the lowest of the low. Their fates are now completely intertwined. Every choice, we're just going to say Cornelius, makes could lead to favor or failure, triumph or ruin. Inside the arena, it will be a fight to the death. Outside the arena, Cornelius starts to feel for his doomed tribute and must weigh his need to follow the rules against his desire to survive no matter what it takes. And we're gonna have her stabbing me again. But I've been wondering, especially since it's the 10th Hunger Games, so you know, when we have the Hunger Games in the main series, that's the 74th Hunger Games, and I was like, that's, you know, 74 before that. So again, like these first 10, the first 12, but it took them 50 years for District 12 to have a winner. So I was like, who was mentoring the tributes before that? And I did get spoiled for the next book for that. I got spoiled twice, actually. And so I found that out. But now, especially back then when, you know, obviously there's only been 9 games, because this will be the 10th. I was like, who were mentoring these people? How did they prepare for these games? Because they were so new. And it seems like they were taking people from the Capitol to be mentors. But we will be starting this today. Next, we have my mood read, which is a horror book, and that is The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. I don't know how many years it's been. It's been like, let's say 7 years since this little girl went missing. Nobody knows where she is, what happened to her. At least we don't think anybody knows. We are following 3 POVs. First, we have the man who was kind of like accused, but they didn't have substantial evidence. So we have him, who he's now like an alcoholic. It says he drinks alone in front of his TV, trying to ignore the gaps in his memory. And there's just something not quite, I don't want to say not quite right, but he seems really immature for somebody of this age. I don't know if he's on the spectrum or something. But then we have, who the other POV is the sister of the little girl who went missing, and she's trying, you know, just grabbing at every straw, trying to find out what happened to her little sister. And then we had the POV of the cat, Olivia, who is the cat of Ted, who is Yuden the man that was kind of a suspect in the case. We have that one, and then we have my ebook, and that is Edge of Eternity by Ken Follett, book 3. So right now we've entered the 1980s. We're in 1980, and a lot is going on in Warsaw. I don't know, is Poland leaving from behind the Iron Curtain? I don't know, but we're all leading up to the Iron Curtain falling, or the Berlin Wall falling, I guess. So those are all the books that I'm going to be focusing on this week. I got to 12% in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I should be able to read a little bit more, but I had to deal with Honda. I have no idea how they got my phone number. I've never given them my phone number. So at first I was kind of scared it was a scam, but I did a research on the number and it was their real phone number. So I called them back. As I read a chapter, I called them back. They put me on hold for 25 minutes, and I was like, okay, I have things to do. I cannot wait any longer. So I hung up, called back a few hours later, and literally all they want to know is what I was doing with this car, if I was selling it, keeping it, changing titles of it. And I'm like, y'all made me wait 25 minutes for me to tell them something I've already told them 2 times before. So frustrating. So I should be able to read, I would say, about 5 chapters a day. I only was able to read 4 chapters today, but since I had to go on that whole side quest with a car company when I don't even have a driver's license. Okay, so this is all like my first time going into this book, and I don't think there's going to be, I've heard you can read this book without reading the main series. I'm sorry that I'm so rigid. It's because these straps, that keeps happening, and I don't want them to fall like really low. So I guess I can hold them like this. That's gonna look really awkward, but that's why I'm getting rid of this dress. But we had this one character who is kind of a side character in Mockingjay. I'm assuming it's the same person. I was shocked because I'm like, where is this character going to go? Like, it's Tigress, and how did she get to where she got to? I'm super curious and was not expecting her at all. Okay, then we have President Snow, who is not President Snow. So Corio, yeah, that's his nickname, so that's what I'm going to call him because it's easier for me to pronounce than his full name. So Corio, he comes from, I struggle saying poverty. So their family was once like on top, you know, they were once a high-ranking family, but in the war, both of his parents died, and there's not a lot of money left to their name. So they are struggling. They don't own, you know, nice things anymore and all of that. They barely have food. So I didn't expect that. So it's a family who lost it all. And so he has his trauma, but I think that's only natural that somebody who becomes a villain, they usually typically have that baggage behind them. And then he has a whole thing where he even says that this shirt, because he can't find a shirt to wear for the reaping day, that he has asphyxiation on. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not here for it, because it was 7 minutes about finding a shirt to wear, or not 7 minutes, 7 pages. And I'm like, no, I'm not here for that. That is way too long. So this is definitely more slower paced, like Catching Fire and Mockingjay, but this book is 517 pages, which is a good 200, no, I'm gonna say like 100 pages longer than the other books in the universe. And this answered my question on who were the original mentors for the Hunger Games. So it seems like in the first 9, they didn't have mentors. They just threw the tributes in there. But now they are letting people who are essentially seniors in high school in the capital become mentors for the tributes. And so this is, we're seeing the start of that. And I want a book because all these books that Susan Collins has written are taking place after the big war between the capital and the districts. I want a book that's before the war to just get an understanding of how Panem, I really want to know how Panem was formed, and I would just like some books that are taking place before. And with this, so we know Snow is a mentor in the games for District 12. I don't know if it's going to be something that changes every year, because it seems like this is him trying to get into university, because again, his family doesn't really have any money, and he's hoping that he gets that money from being a mentor and can go to university. But now we know Snow knows more about the games than we can let on, because he has been a mentor in these games. So if you're wondering, in the main series, like, who's a mentor, so Haymitch is a mentor in the original series. And we have Lucy Gray Bard, I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, is the girl selected for District 12. And when she's selected, one of the guys in the Capitol watching is like, I bet they rigged it. And I'm like, yeah, I was wondering the same thing, because back then it was the mayor who would do the reaping. So the mayor of District 12 did the reaping, read off her name, and I'm like, what if it was like, because we find out he has a daughter, I'm like, what if it was actually his daughter's name and he just said a random name so his daughter wouldn't have to go? I'm curious if that ever happened. This is something I never thought much about, the trains that take the tributes to the Capitol. I just assumed they were all on the same train, but I'm like, no, that wouldn't make sense, because then like the District 1 people would have to go to District 12 and all of that. So in the main series, which is, so this is about 65 years before the main series, to let y'all know. Also, I looked up, I'm like, when do the Hunger Games take place? Like, how far in the future are they? So the original series, again, is 300 years into the future. So this one is probably like 250 years, you know, rough estimate into the future. And then so as I was saying about the trains, so they all come on different trains. There's like 12 different trains coming into the city. Like, that is a lot of trains. And back then they were throwing them on, the tributes back in President's Day were being thrown into cattle cars, like bad. And something that with Lucy, so she had this like whole performance in District 12, and I was like, why is this legit a musical? Like, what is happening here? Like, I'm not here for it. But when we see her in the Capitol, I'm like, she does have that star quality. Like, it kind of reminds me of like old Hollywood in a way. Like, think Marilyn Monroe, think Evelyn Hugo. That's the vibe I was getting from her. Like, she has this charm and just this star quality, or as the kids say today, she had this aura around her, and that was something fascinating. So Lucy's family are Covey people, so Covey, and they used to just travel all around, but after the war they had to stay in one district, and that ended up being District 12. So that's really fascinating that there were groups that you could just go from district to district, you know, when now like in the main series you have to have like special privilege, you have to have a special reason for leaving the district. So I thought all that was interesting. But yes, got to 12% in here too. Guys, it is time to talk about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is such a long title, kind of a tongue twister, but I have a lot of notes that I took today. I read 63 pages, so that's one more page than yesterday, so that's always exciting when that happens. I will admit I am kind of sleepy. Like, I don't know what it is, but today, like, my throat has been kind of like sore, which has been happening like the past few days. I think it's just sleeping with my mouth open or something. So I have been taking cough drops and everything. I haven't taken Benadryl yet because, as I said, I am sleepy and I do not want to add on to that. But I did I take Tylenol today? I think I took Tylenol today. I think that's really bad that I'm not remembering if I did. So that is what we're dealing with today. So I might be sneezy, but I am tired, so that's why I'm saying I might be all over the place over here. But let's go through the notes. So I start on chapter 5. So I was talking to my friend who was also reading the book, and he has seen the movie before reading it. Now, I have not seen the movie. I have not read the book until now. And he pointed out a theme of old money versus like new money, old wealth versus new wealth. I hadn't really picked up on that at first. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that is happening, but I didn't pick it up as a major theme. But I did want to make note of that because there are like some instances of seeing Choreo and I'm not knowing how to pronounce this guy's name, but this guy, like Juice or something, his dad was well-to-do in District 2 and helped a lot with the war, so therefore got to move to the capital, so he's seen as an outsider in the capital. But both sides had their struggles during the war, the districts and the capital. And I think a lot of times we only think of the districts because the capital won the war, but still people died and the streets were like perilous. Koryo even witnessed one of his neighbors getting body parts to eat, cannibalism, to make stew out of human flesh. So I mean, it was very hard. Like, people were having a hard time finding food and all this. So I think it really shows why the Hunger Games became a thing, because the capital is like, you killed so many of our people during the war, you have to sacrifice 24 of your children every year. I'm not saying this right or anything, but I'm just saying it does make sense of what their train of thought was there. Because I remember when the Hunger Games was coming out, like, telling people, me like, this is a book where all these kids have to fight to the death. Like, that sounds insane, but there is obviously reason behind that. But also it made me think of even the games themselves, that even if you are a victor, you will have your scars. You had to survive somehow. And that's saying, like, the capital, they might have won this war, but it wasn't easy. They lost people, they went hungry, they lost everything they had to their name, and that is war. And so we had this, going to chapter 6 now, these two characters, Koryo obviously, and another one, who are talking about the tributes that they are mentoring, and this other guy is wanting to trade tributes with Koryo. And at the start, this guy was really saying, like, they're humans too. He's really against the Hunger Games, against the games, but then he's wanting to trade a person, and I'm like they're acting as if so at the start of 5, they were acting as if the tributes were people. Now they're wanting to trade their tributes. Okay, and now, so Sejanus, that's the one who I was saying is from District 2, is then suddenly empathetic at the end of, again, about the humans. So it's just like so confusing. And I think at this time, coming out of a war, and you're just coming with new customs like the Hunger Games, and these are kids, these are like 18-year-olds, they're like seniors in high school, and they are confused about what is going on and trying to make sense of it in their head. But as we kind of talked about with the old and new world, classism is definitely a theme here, and I think it does go hand in hand with that wealth one that I was talking about, of just seeing the different class systems, because the Snow family has lost everything. They have their name and they still have their penthouse, but they do not have like any money to their name. They only have the grandma, the cousin, and well, the two cousins, Tigris and Koryo. That is basically all. But Snow, Koryo, he still sees himself better than others because he does come from old money, even if they have lost it all. But something with the writing, I'm definitely not vibing with the writing of this. The writing of the original series is way better, but the transitions, it doesn't transition well. So we're at the zoo, which is where they're storing the tributes. Then suddenly we're back at home and he's talking to his grandma, and I'm like, okay, how did we get here? Then we have him going to bed, and suddenly it's the next morning and he's going to school, and I'm like, the transition is just very like snappy, you know, choppy, I guess. And I'm like, how did we get from point A to point B? Like, there's no breaks in that. Yeah, that's definitely something with her writing style in general. There's no breaks in the chapters of transitions from like one place to the next, and I will just get confused being like, wait, how did we get here? So not very clear and concise writing, in my opinion. And then something else that I'm picking up on is this an oligarchy? And it kind of reminds me of Rome. Even when I originally, you know, read the series for the first time, a lot of the names are Roman inspired names. Like, I've seen an Agrippina, in the books we have Aurelius, in the movie Antonius, Gaius. So there's just, you know, a lot of Roman inspired names. And I don't remember which, I think it was Mockingjay, where they talked about Rome, but it might have been in this book. That's one thing when you read them back to back, where they talk about Rome and that there was this great empire called Rome that so these people in the capital, a lot of them have businesses in the districts, like they're running those businesses. Like the Snow family did have was an ammunition business in District 13. Obviously this war is what made them go broke. We also have Arachne, I guess is how you would say her name. Her family builds resorts and all. Like, okay. So they would build resorts. So she has traveled to District 10. She's been to these places. So they all have, there was somebody, Pup, his dad is like a commander of a ship off of District 4. So they all have business like with all these other districts. I'm like, is this an oligarchy? I might not be correct on that, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. And then we have Snow realizing that he isn't too different than Lucy Gray because they are both broken from the war. The war took their families away from them and took the life that they knew away from them, and he's just seeing that they are similar, and she does as well, that they're both orphans. But yes, this ending of chapter 6, crazy. We'll get into a little bit more at the end of chapter 7. But I've always wondered if one of the tributes like died in training or something before, what would happen, and we kind of get an answer to that here, and it was just like not how I expected it to go. Like I was like, that's not what I expected. But also this is third person when the original series is in first person, and my friend did have several theories about that. I'm personally not sure why Susan Collins made this third person rather than first person. It would be something really interesting to look into though. But something here is that with that, you know, we aren't getting a lot of inner thoughts, but I'm not saying that's necessarily bad because I do think he's a good character. Definitely not, I'm not as connected as I was with Katniss and the characters in the first series, but there's a lot of action. We're seeing a lot of just actions. I'm not saying like action like an action movie, but just the day-to-day life, and that it is just like action, 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 and to me that is dual, and I get bored with that. But yes, as I was saying, with the ending of chapter 6, I think somebody is out for these mentors. I don't know what to think of this, and maybe somebody kind of rebelling about the games in a way, or maybe the government doesn't really like this idea of having mentors. I don't know, but I think somebody is out for the mentors. I think they're all going to die, with Corio Snow being the last one standing. I'm telling you, that's a theory. I have no idea if that happens or not, so don't think I'm like spoiling by saying that. To go into that, we had this quote in chapter 8, and this is my last note. It was like the Hunger Games, only they weren't district kids, and that's on page 116. So those are all my notes of the day for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Susan Collins. Guys, happy Thursday. I didn't vlog yesterday, and I didn't make my bed today. Well, I got iPhone footage. I didn't film anything on the camera because I was in Myrtle Beach. Went to a baseball game. I saw some sharks. I saw surfers. I went to the mall. I got the mail. Did all those kind of things. I had some hot dogs. It was a good time. And then today I woke up, well, like last night it started, but like with a migraine. But I think I have found what one of the triggers is when it's not hormonal. So that is good. You know, you have to find positives and the negatives, but I am all good now. I went to Target today since I didn't get to go yesterday. I got some fun fall stuff, but y'all have to stay tuned for, you have to go to TikTok for that, or Facebook, maybe Facebook, but TikTok guarantee. I do want to talk about what I read today. So yesterday I read 20 pages in Misbehaving at the Crossroads and then Edge of Eternity. Today I didn't get to read any of this because that is when I had my migraine, but I did get to read in here, and I will read in my other books today as well. Just I won't get to a point that would be a good spot to update the vlog, but we're gonna go through the notes that I have that I can go over. And yeah, we had explosions, we had where I think the author was trying to give us chemistry. But my favorite part about this book has been seeing the capital, seeing capital citizens and what life is like in the capital, because we've never really got that. We've never had the POV of a capital citizen in any of the Hunger Games books before. So just seeing it from their perspective has been really interesting. And we had this discussion of Snow, Corio, he hasn't, this whole time he was seeing he wasn't thinking if she wins, he's just like, I need to perfect this for my own personal gain. And I never picked up on that, because I thought he wanted her to sing to the crowds and all that, because that would therefore get her sponsors. And if she wins, he wins at life too, because his tribute won in the games. So think of the great prize. So I only thought it was a mutual thing, that they would both benefit if she won the games. But no, apparently not. That's not how it was. That he just wanted to benefit from it. Like, he wasn't even thinking if she won. And to me that doesn't make sense, because as I said, if she wins, therefore he wins, and they both get substantial awards. So I don't understand that there. And something that I really picked up on today is they see these tributes as possession. The mentors do. Like, I mean, I know we talked about the other day with them wanting to trade tributes and everything, but the way they're treating them, like, my girl, my tribute, putting my in front of a word that describes a human. So that is something. But another theme that I picked up on with the character of Koryo is ego, self-worth, how he came from money, but his family was like desolated. The war desolated them, but he still sees himself as better. He sees himself as better from those in the district, better better than people from the capital who aren't a old money family. Even though he's lost everything, he still sees himself as better than these people. But I also think he is insecure deep down. And then we have this part where Mockingjays get mentioned. I'm not going to say completely what is going on here, but it's just like too on the nose, where I'm like, the author trying to connect this to the original series, I guess, and I'm just like, no. Also, the musical performances in here I think are kind of cringy, corny. I don't know, but I'm like, no, I don't really like it. And then we had the romance. So I don't feel it at all. I do not feel a chemistry between these two characters. But she tells him, you're all I'm going to think about in the arena. That is from page 192. I'm like, okay, you're in there fighting for your life. You have, I mean, it's complicated, her family life back home, but I'm like, he's all you're going to be thinking about when you're in there? And then I'm like, okay, what if this is playing on power dynamics? Because she is his tribute once again. And she can't just, turn him away, because in that, her life depends on him, of him getting her sponsors and being a mentor to her. And then we have seen in this book how other mentor tribute relationships have gone. I'm not saying romantically, but it's not a safe thing. So I do think this could be playing on power dynamics. But again, I don't know if maybe I'm just trying to justify anything here. But I am going to be ending the vlog. We're going to do our recap, our wrap up. I've only read over 100 pages one day this week, but I do think today I will read over 100 pages as well. I have not hauled any books this week. Good on me. And next week we will most likely still be in this book. I'm at 40%, I think it said I was, so I don't know. I don't know where I started the day at, so I think I read like 15% today, so just, I don't know if we will still be reading this next week, but if we're not, we're going to be reading the book club pick, which is going to be fun, which is the most recent book in the series, The Sunrise and the Reaping or something like that. But the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, it's given 3-star vibes. If I'm being honest with y'all, this has been the worst in the series. It's not bad, but it's not my favorite either. And I think it has its issues, it has its flaws. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, comment, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that notification bell to be notified when all my videos go live. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!